The invitation to come and speak today about digital meets physical, it was such an unusual one because people who know me very well will know that digital and internet and everything to do with electronics is probably not my strongest subject. So what I'm going to try and talk about today is how the automotive industry is beginning to respond to the change in buying habits from retailers. Thank you for the introduction, Colin. Almost as if I'd written that one myself. But actually, I think as a fiercely patriotic Rangers fan is even more than fiercely patriotic Scotsman. That's excellent. I got a bit of a reaction there to that one. Volkswagen Financial Services, just to let you know, if you don't know already, we're the finance company behind Volkswagen Group and affiliated brands. So that's Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Skoda, Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, Bugatti, Bentley, Lamborghini, and Porsche. So that's a huge myriad of brands across the UK, and as well as providing retail financing for customers, we trade as a bank, a specialist bank for the automotive industry. We trade as a fleet services company with a portfolio now in excess of 100,000 vehicles. An after-sales business where we've got almost 600,000 vehicles from an after-sales point of view, and an insurance business where we've got over 300,000 insurance contracts as well. So I guess we cover the huge myriad of the industry across all the different product ranges and all across the different segments and across a huge myriad of brands. I guess that gives me a little bit of knowledge to be able to talk around the changes in the automotive industry. Most of the people in here today appear to be fleet-orientated people or appear to be electronics and internet-related people and systems people. So I think I'm going to introduce a little bit about consumers, because actually consumers, every single one of us are consumers, and whether you operate as an individual buyer of a car or you're part of a fleet, it's the same thing. We're actually researching our cars, and we're researching information in exactly the same way, whether we're the drivers of a fleet or whether we're consumers sat in front of the TV watching or researching what's going on. Now, so the subject was digital meets physical. I guess we all know about the huge change in the customer buying habits we've seen, specifically in the UK because of, I guess, the sophistication, but it's the same throughout the world. And there's a little bit of a fallacy that says that because of the upcoming changes in the way that customers are buying cars, that dealers are going to be dead soon. And I'm going to try and get rid of that myth. People at Volkswagen and other brands across the UK would not be investing the hundreds of millions of pounds in new showroom facilities if they didn't think there was a future available for dealers. So whilst the buying process is changing, there is still a strong need for dealers to operate within the UK. And I picked out a bit of research from McKinsey. I researched all the people who are attending the conference today, and I think McKinsey were the only consultant company who are not attending today. So I've actually chosen McKinsey as the people to refer to. And this report looks at the automotive retail industry, specifically in the UK, but touches upon some of the other countries across Europe. And it's the results of the analysis that they've done. So some of the things they speak about is that with all the research they've done, 85% of customers are still using the dealer as the main touch point in the buying process. 1 in 4 customers aren't particularly satisfied with the process. I'd like to say that's because Volkswagen Group have got about 20–25% market share, but that's not the case. But they're not necessarily satisfied with the dealer experience because the dealers aren't keeping up with what customers expect. The average number of customers, or the average number of customer visits has gone from 7 visits per car sale down to 5 visits per car sale, and it's now just over 1 visit per car sale. And that means that customers already know what they want before they walk into dealerships. So, in actual fact, the salespeople, the old traditional salespeople within dealerships have to change because the customer's already decided. And when the salesman begins to irritate the customer by trying to sell them something that he hasn't researched or hasn't wanted, that's when you get a level of dissatisfaction. And that's why you've only got 1 in 4 people who are completely satisfied with the process. More than 80% of customers still like to take a test drive. If they're buying a car, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds, they're pretty much going to want to test drive that car before they commit to an eventual purchase. But that's at the end of the investigation process that takes place. And Technology, that's a great thing. It's a technology conference where the technologies just let us down. We're back. The guys are panicking behind the scenes there to try and get the slides. I'll keep on talking and maybe they can catch up with me in a second. More than one third of customers would actually consider buying a car online unless they change the process afterwards. I'll flick back in a second. The important point is that what this research says is that customers still physically want to experience the vehicle before they buy it. They're looking for expert advice and consultancy when they walk into retailers, rather than salesmen selling them what's currently in stock. But they're also, both customers and the manufacturers really value the personal aspect of the touch point of the customer relationship at the time the customer is prepared to buy. And that says that the manufacturers are having to change the environment that customers are coming towards and the sales process that people come towards too. So you can see those changes that are taking place and have taken place over the course of the last couple of years. This research also looked at the banking industry, and the banking industry, they've said, when they analysed it, that up to 50% of revenue by 2018 across most of the European countries will come from digital sales. But that's not consistent across every country. Some of the more advanced countries, I guess, like the UK and Germany and some of the Scandinavian countries, will be very much advanced by 2018, but actually some of the other European countries lag a little bit behind. And it's not necessarily with all products and services. So things like savings plans and term deposits might be as high as 50 or 60% digital because we just go online and expect it. But things like pensions, which are much more difficult to understand, people still won't buy those online. They'll be looking for further advice. And even mortgages, people will gather the information online in terms of mortgages, but they'll research the marketplace and actually want to speak to somebody afterwards. So even that move from the big banks towards digitalisation will not be consistent across every country and across every product line. And but the effect from an automotive financial services position is that if they're moving and they're investing hugely in terms of the digital footprint and the digital relationship with customers, the test for us in the automotive industry is either to keep up or be even further advanced as far than they are. So what I'm going to talk to you about a little bit is how Volkswagen and Volkswagen Financial Services are beginning to respond to that threat. And you could replace Volkswagen Group by any other manufacturer. All I'm going to do is talk about Volkswagen because I'm a little bit closer to it, as you would expect. The approach from Volkswagen is they've introduced a concept to their dealer called bricks, clicks, and people. And it really, for them, it signifies, I guess, a revolution in the evolution of how retailers operate. Volkswagen Group are investing tens, in fact, hundreds of millions of pounds in new dealerships across the UK. As you drive around the UK, you'll see it almost every single day. And some of them are very, very digitally orientated. So the Audi site over in the other side of the city centre is probably the extreme of that, where it's a digital showroom. And you go into the digital showroom and you spec your car and configure your car online and effectively can order it on site. Other manufacturers, there's the Blue Water site that's just opened up over on the east side of London, where Hyundai have built a showroom in the shopping centre, and you can go in there and actually do the same thing as Audi have done in the West End, but they've got a pile of stock that's sat out the back, where if the customer actually says, actually now I want to drive the car, they've got cars in the car park you can go out to and actually go and test drive the cars behind the scene. All the manufacturers are going down the same line, but Volkswagen is around bricks, clicks, and people. The point is that they are trying to deliver a personal experience for each individual person. And there's probably, about 200 or 300 people in the room today. Every single one of us is going to want something different. And the point is that when we walk into a dealership, when we look for the sales process, we're looking for what we want individually, not what they necessarily want to sell us. And I guess that bit is changing. In terms of people, so you've got the bricks piece where you've got the investment in terms of the building the experience. You've got the vast improvement in terms we're making in terms of the clicks, which I'll speak to you about in a second. But actually, in terms of people, there's a huge amount, I guess, of emotional intelligence that we have to find within the dealer network. People have to be able to respond in an emotional, intelligent way to what the customer's looking for, because in the customer's head, they've already got all that information. They're specifically looking for what they want individually. And that changes the quality of people, it changes the pay plans, it changes the way that people are rewarded within the dealer network, because that means there's a very, very high requirement for high quality, hugely intelligent, emotionally intelligent people to handle customer experiences or customer requests that they specifically have in their head. Where Volkswagen, I guess Volkswagen Group are expanding their operation to make that easier, it's about linking together the internal and digital savings, make it available for customers to get online information on desktops, laptops, iPads, iPhones, every type of technology that's available today. They're looking for the same thing from every single one of them. So Volkswagen Group are investing in all the apps to make that available in every single choice. And customers, because all of us are so internet and information savvy nowadays, we're all looking for instant information to help to, I guess, investigate, compare, contrast offers, specifications of cars, and specifications of the operative finance solution at the same time. We're looking for that to be online and instantaneous. They want it to be designed specifically for what they want. And it's a natural flow of information that when they've configured the car, they're going to configure the way they're going to buy the car at exactly the same time. So that natural flow of information is making it easy for the customer to, I guess, seek out the insurance and after-sales plans, the financing offers and plans, and in the future, and it touched upon in the first presentation, around wider vehicle-related mobility plans, all that information that they're expecting to bring online. In terms of finance, it's all about being online as well, and it's about being integrated through the entire sales and customer experience process. I guess the thing that's changed, the other thing that's changed in terms of consumer finance is, if you look at the old way we used to do it, we used to part exchange a vehicle, work out the price of the car, the interest rate was usually part of a campaign, and then you worked out what the rental was, and at the end of that sales process you thought, well, can I afford it or not? But actually the retail industry begins to change much more like the fleet industry, where it's rental driven. They know how much they can afford, they're starting with that, and then they're saying, what car can I get for the rental? And that sales process is beginning to evolve within retail finance as well. In fact, the whole process is turning upside down. And as far as financial services is concerned, we have to change to accommodate that. Where Volkswagen Group have begun to implement this into their sales process, this is what they're seeing. They're seeing showroom visits down 50%, but they're seeing retail sales up 50%. So that level of sophistication, as they change that process, is making it much easier for customers to buy the cars. And that's in comparison to a market that's up about 10 or 11% this year so far. So Volkswagen are really winning in terms of making this sales process work for them within their dealerships. The big question is why, and this is because if you think about it, we all sit in front of the TV at night when we get home after work, and we get stimulated by lots of things that are going on. You know, there's TV shows, there's documentaries, there's loads of adverts on the television, and we're being bombarded with information. And I'm sure you, like me, I'm often sat in front of the TV. Unfortunately, my wife does it as far as shoes are concerned, but they're usually sat in front of the TV with their iPad, and as soon as they're stimulated by something that comes on the TV, they immediately go into their iPad and start researching it. And that's what customers are comfortable with nowadays. That's what customers want. And if you try to take them through a sales process in the dealership that makes them uncomfortable when they're so comfortable with that sales process, they're going to walk away, and that's where you're going to get the 80% of customers who are a bit dissatisfied with the process. So we have to make the dealerships comfortable for them. We have to make it, create it in a way where the customer, when it comes into the showroom, feels at home. So that's about being able to experience everything within the showroom that they can experience when they're home at night researching it on the TV. So it's couches, it's big televisions, they're actually almost more important within the showrooms than the car, because actually the customer, first and foremost, comes in to experience things first. So being able to configure and manufacture and create cars or create the offer on huge television screens in front of couches in the middle of the showroom becomes incredibly important. And when they get that level of comfort, that's when they're prepared to commit and buy the car that they walked in to buy in the first place. And it's not necessarily the car that the salesman's looking to sell. Usually, there's one dealership, a Volkswagen dealership in North London, who has got rid of all of his salespeople. He's brought in Apple-type salespeople, and the first in the sales process in there is, can you tell me what car you've been researching online? It's not, the sales process is completely changed, and that's the type of dealership where you're seeing 50% increase in sales because the customer just becomes satisfied that the salesman's actually going to deliver what they walked in to buy in the first place. The next area where that becomes into play is that it's when you come for information within the retailers. And the old days of paper brochures are completely and utterly dead. Because once you've decided on a specific vehicle, you don't want a brochure, 50 or 60-page brochure showing you the huge range of different vehicles and accessories that are available for all those range of cars. What you want to do is you want to configure the car and actually have an electronic brochure of specifically what you're looking for, that gives you all the information that you've collated during the point of time, and you can take it away with you on the internet, on your go home and do it, put it on your iPhone or do it on your iPad. You're looking for something specifically designed for you. And I guess those brochures are a little bit like TV screens. It's actually converting the sales brochure, the information brochure, specifically like the TV, because that's what we all trust when we're sat at home at night looking at it. So that personalised digital brochure is central to the future of how Volkswagen are going to be selling their cars. It's a big step forward for Volkswagen. They're invested heavily just as much in this technology as they have done in their cars over the course of the last few years. And those range of apps and range of pieces of information are all making it available for people to access, I guess right now. The point is that when the customer does walk into the showroom and starts looking at the specific car, what the salesman's doing with his iPad is tagging the pieces of information or the things that the customer talks about, and whether it's the alloy wheels or whether it's a telematics box or whether it's some other piece of technology that's on the car, what the salesman's doing is he's walking around the car speaking to the customer about what the customer likes about that car. He's just tagging the pieces of information, and at the end of that process, when the customer says, right, okay, I'm going to go and think about it, the salesman can then tag all that information, press the button, and email all of that information to the customer's website or Apple iMac or whatever he's particularly looking for. That means you're actually creating a specific experience allied to what the customer's expecting and specific information about what that customer's looking for in the car, and it actually makes the whole buying process so much easier. And all those apps are being regularly utilised today. The challenge for financial services and fleet companies is how we integrate and interlink into that completely new sales process. And I guess I'll click onto that, where I'll talk about now how BWFS are doing exactly that. The strategy for us is split up into 3 areas. So we call it browse, buy, and bond. The browse section is where the customer, regardless of whether they're sat at home configuring their car and their finance agreement, doing it within the dealership, or even doing it on their way to work, on the bus or the train, browsing is about us making sure that customers can access the information they have with us through the integrated sales process in almost any single location. It's human-driven configurators merged with online quotes and even credit checks as people are on the move. The buying section is pretty simple. We believe that customers should be able to purchase their cars either online or, I guess, in store, from accepting their credit through to the car being delivered. And we will integrating our whole sales process linked into our Volkswagen Group brands in exactly that way. And the bond piece is just making it easy for people to access the information about their account with us at any particular time in any particular way that they want. So a specific thing for them. So it's about providing tools about how they manage their account, and that creates, I guess, a higher level of brand loyalty and dependency on the process. As we've done that and put things together like the equity calculator online and the CRM processes online and allowing people access to their account, we've seen for Volkswagen over the course of this year, and for those that some of my competitors, you'll understand some of these numbers, we've seen customer loyalty or customer renewal increase to 47%. So of all the finance agreements come to an end for Volkswagen, we're renewing almost 1 in 2 of them because they're buying into this whole relationship process through the developments that we've taken with their account. So we've made some good progress on this. We're linking together and put all those things in place. Actually, those tick boxes are even today out of date. We've got the equity calculator and the CRM systems now online. And frankly, we're investing millions of pounds, and some of the people within this room, we're investing millions of pounds to bring that whole sales process to life. I guess the point is that we're positioning ourselves that with the threat of the banks, the threat of the changes in the way that people are buying, we are needing to integrate our wholesale sales processes and customer management processes completely with our manufacturers and our retailers. That's how we're going to compete with I guess the merchants of doom who are talking about retailing, automotive retailing dying. It's simply not the case. It's going to be much more of a merge between both digital and physical, and it won't be a case of either or. I guess the point for us is that we want to make it easy for customers to just flip backwards and forwards on whatever route they want to take to speak to us or buy from us. And if you can't have that ability to flip or allow the customers to flip back and forward, we're going to be left behind. So that's where we are investing the majority of our time and effort just now in terms of building the proposition to the customers and actually just make it easy for customers to deal with us in every single way that the customer specifically wants. So I think I'm about done. I guess there's a summary that says that, yeah, the world's changing. You can probably tell from my age profile, balding head and hair colour, that I'm probably not the best person to be speaking about the changes in the digital world. Like we heard from Keith earlier on, my daughter's 24. She's lived with a mobile telephone in her hand for most of her life as well. And she's often telling me how old and decrepit I am in terms of how technology is going. A challenge for all of us, because I look around the room, quite a lot of people just of similar age to myself, we either have to keep up or get out. And in terms of our technology providers that are in this room, the real challenge for for you guys in our industry is because things are moving so quickly from a technology point of view, we have to make some decisions that says, do we buy from you or do we do it ourselves? Because what you're doing is all competing against each other and to provide different bespoke solutions. And frankly, we don't have the time to try and work out what you've got. So there's a bit of a challenge to you guys that says, actually, you're going to have to, I guess, help us to become faster, more efficient, and cheaper into market. Because if you can't, then actually the challenge for companies like Volkswagen Financial Services is maybe we have to start doing the whole thing and take charge of it ourselves. Because at the moment, we are going too slow based on the current processes we've currently got. That was my talk about digital meets physical. If you want to see it in action, go to West London Audi and go and have a look at how the sales process works within West London Audi, or even the digital showroom within the city centre opposite the Ritz. You'll get the real experience in there of how customers are really buying cars nowadays, which are driving 50% additional car sales. That was it for me.
Graham, thank you. Thank you. Graham, thank you very much indeed. We've got time for a question. Mr. Betterley.
I didn't plant this one, David, but carry on.
Hi, Graham. Excellent presentation, as always. So,
thanks very much. Can I get off now?
Yeah. I think you talked about a very traditional model where people are sort of buying and owning the cars and bringing them back after 2 or 3 years and changing. But how do you find this sort of growing trend for people wanting to drive more than one car? So, you know, we're struggling with it in a number of markets where, you know, particularly the higher end customers, which some of your Audi customers, they're not satisfied with owning that car for 2 or 3 years. They'd like to be able to always drive an Audi, but drive different models. Yeah. And what sort of technology solutions have you got to deliver that?
Well, I'm not sure if technology solutions are the answer to it. I think that people are looking. First of all, people have to get access to the cars. And I think one of the issues that we're looking at is we're looking at moving towards much more of a lifestyle agreement rather than an individual finance agreement for cars. But to be able to make it easy for customers to step out of one car into another car at any particular point in the life cycle, you've got to have access to a huge range of cars that are lying around. And that's where I think the bigger companies are looking to move. The bigger financial services companies and fleet companies are probably thinking about expanding their operations into more micro rental and short-term rental products. And I think, and I certainly Volkswagen Financial Service are doing exactly that. We're looking to expand our operations from where we're offering financing and leases for up to 5 years. From about 12 months onwards, we are now looking to then to expand our product range into much shorter term life cycle stuff like micro rental and car sharing and daily rental business through our retailers. If we can get that bit right, then actually what you can then do is exactly what you've said, is allow customers to step out and step in of the cars that they want to drive, because not everybody wants to drive the same car all the time, as you said. Once you get that, but once you get the logistics right of customers being able to step in and step out of cars, then the technology will be there to provide the solution. Actually, already, and I've seen examples in Turkey and in China through our sister companies in Volkswagen Financial Services, where they've got an app and they can just do the same thing as you can do in London. You go and find the car, you click the box, and you actually go and get your car delivered to them. And all that technology is there. In the UK, it's about logistics to be able to support the swapping in and the swapping out of cars. That's the first point.
Graham, thank you. David, thank you. I'm going to wrap up this session now. If you want to ask Graham more questions, there's another few minutes break now in which you can do so. But once again, Graham Wheeler, thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.